Hola chicos, en este video vamos a aprender sobre los verbos reflexivos or reflexive verbs. Now, ¿qué es un verbo reflexivo? You guys have already witnessed a whole list of reflexive verbs in your first lesson. So, cepillarse, afeitarse, dormirse, ducharse, these are all examples of reflexive verbs because they end in se, right? And to get into more detail, a reflexive verb has the same subject and object. And the same person is acting out the verb as is receiving the action. So, for example, I wash my hands, right? I am doing the washing and I am receiving the action of hand washing, right? I'm being affected by it. I am brushing my hair. So, yo me peino, right? I am brushing my hair, I'm doing that action, and I'm receiving that action, right? Because it is my hair that is being brushed. So just think, anytime a verb ends in se, it is reflexive, and also what that means is that the same person is acting out the verb as is receiving that action. So, un ejemplo, me lavo means I wash myself versus lavo el carro. Now, lavo means that I am doing both actions, right? But what is the difference here? Well, me lavo comes from the reflexive verb lavarse, right? Or to wash oneself, versus lavar is simply to wash, right? So, lavarse is reflexive, lavar is not. Not only does lavarse end in a se, that's how we know it is reflexive, but we also know that it is reflexive, right? Because I am washing and I am receiving that washing versus just lavo means that I am washing something else. Okay, so that is the difference. An action happening to oneself versus an action happening to something else. All right, let's move on. So to show you how we conjugate reflexive verbs, I'm going to work with the example, I brush my hair. What goes in this space? Let's find out. Here is how we conjugate los verbos reflexivos. So, el primer paso, we take off the se and we put it in front of the verb. And so if I were to do that with my example, I brush my hair, right? I take peinarse, I take off the se, and I put it in front. And this is what you would get. Paso dos, you change the object based on who is performing or being affected by the action. So your choices are me, te, se, nos, or se again. Let's look at a chart. So if the action is happening to myself, then I put me, I change se to me. If the action is happening to you, I change the se to te. If the action is happening to him or her, then I leave the se as is. If it's happening to us, if we are doing and receiving that action, then I change the se to nos. And if it is happening to them, we also just leave the se as is. So because I am brushing my hair in our example, right? I take se and I change it to me, right? Because I am brushing my hair. Bueno. Now, the next step, we take peinar and we take the AR, ER, or IR off of the end. And then we find an ending to put on the end of our verb, right? Because somebody has to be acting out the verb. So to do this step, we have to be able to remember our AR verb endings. So if I'm doing the action, I put an O on the end. If you are doing the action, it's an as ending. If he or she is doing the action, then it is a on the end. We are doing the action, amos, and they are doing the action, on. So for our example, right, I take off the AR from peinar, and I add the O, right, because I'm doing the action. So we get, I brush my hair as yo me peino. You can also take off the yo. That is not necessary. I just put it there to indicate that I am the one that is brushing my hair, right? Because when we're filling in the blank, you have to know who to start with. Okay, now a real quick review of ER, IR verbs because you will use these as well. So instead of peinar, maybe it's dormir, right? So remember, for IR verbs or ER verbs, the yo form of that still ends in O. The U form is an es. The he or she form is just simply an e or an e. The we form is emos if it's an ER verb or imos if it's an IR verb. And then for present tense verbs that end in ER, IR, for they, it's an EN ending. So, for example, if we're talking with dormir, right? duermo, duermes, duerme, dormimos, or duermen, right? So you can see those endings playing out based on who is sleeping. Okay, that was kind of a long video to explain, but if you have any questions, let me know. I will give you a whole slide with some more examples before you start your practice. All right, adios.